These are 10 episodes where Lois Griffin was a complete psycho. The 10th episode is actually pretty tame compared to the rest of this list, a lot going on upstairs. The episode opens with Stewie naked in front of his classmates while a drunk Lois tells him to run away from the monster staring him down. If you hadn't already guessed it, Stewie's having a nightmare. He shifts from the scene to a dinner party at Glenn Close's house. Sounds more like a dream if you ask me. After circling around with the monster a few more times, Stewie wakes up traumatized to the point that he has to sleep with his parents. Stewie's kicking and spitting through the night leads Peter to the couch for some sleep, only the furniture is spending the weekend at Coachella. Who do you think was headlining? The Futon Fighters? I'll see myself out. This leaves the kitchen table as his only option to sleep on until Brian suggests that he take the futon in the attic. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten about Lois. As is her usual daily routine, Lois goes about getting all the housework done, which includes picking out Peter's dirty clothes from the toilet. She sets out to remind him that they have a hamper for clothes, but gets distracted by what she sees when she finds him.
What's all this?
Oh, hey, Lois. Welcome to the Peat Pad.
So Peter doesn't just find somewhere peaceful to sleep, he fully customizes his own man cave, much to Lois's annoyance. He invites his friends around to have insulation fights. Don't think I need to explain why you shouldn't do that, and Lois still isn't having it. She asks Peter to take out the trash, but he uses a coupon that he gifted to himself for their anniversary that lets him get out of doing house chores. Take that, Uno reverse card, Lois. So she's left to do all the chores alone, but as she goes to clean Chris's room, she's once again interrupted by Peter, who's playing lawn darts. Who's teaching them these games? She finally says enough is enough and tells Peter that she's not having a frat house in their attic anymore. When Peter refuses to leave, she takes his previous Uno reverse card and shoves it right back in his face.
You like the damn attic so much? Then enjoy the attic!
She screws the door shut and leaves them trapped without any provisions, sounding a little like the start of literally any Netflix serial killer documentary, Lois. God knows how many hours later and the guys are still sealed in the attic with no air, food, or water. Peter yells out at his wife to let them free, but she's steadfast in her plan. That is until Peter gives her that Uno reverse card right back. I've gotta come up with new material. Peter threatens to soil her wedding dress if she doesn't let them out. She calls his bluff, but when she hears Cleveland offer to do it, she realizes her hand's been forced. She breaks the attic door, tears a giant hole in the ceiling, and sends the guys crashing to the ground. But it's already too late. Cleveland, soiled her dress, let's say, and Quagmire barfed on Peter.
Let's just agree that we both went a bit too far,
You think, Lois? You locked your husband and his friends in a confined area with no windows and no food or water, all because Peter wouldn't do his chores. Yeah, a bit too far maybe. Great self-awareness, Lois. Stewie wraps up his part in the episode, finding out that the source of his nightmares is his fear of disappointing Brian. Brian tries to comfort him, but it only pushes the kid to walk away and find the worst offender in the episode.
It's a wedding dress out here covered in shit.
Oh, well. That was what I was trying to avoid saying, Stewie. At number 9 is an episode with a title that could honestly work for either Peter or Lois at this point. It takes a village idiot, and I married one. The Griffins vacation at Quagmire's cabin, which is easy to find given that the driveway is shaped like, you guys can see for yourselves. Not only is the cabin filled with various sexual traps and devices, naturally, but it's filled with Quagmire, who's mixed up his weekends. Putting that disturbing image aside, the family spends their time going on walks, singing campfire songs, not the SpongeBob version, and swimming in the lake. It's all fun and games until the Griffins leave the lake looking less like themselves and more like a cheap Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson tribute group. They find the source of their hair loss: toxic water thanks to the Quahog oil refinery dumping waste into the lake. I'm not sure that I would have found a silver lining in having my hair burned off, but hey, at least this family does in the form of some Mozart role-playing. When the fun is over and their hair has grown back, they have their priorities, clearly. Lois goes to Mayor West to complain about the toxic water filling Lake Quahog, but rather than surprise the mayor with her discovery, she's telling him something he already knows. West admits he allows the oil companies to pollute the lake, and in return, he gets free oil for his hair. A totally fair trade. The discovery revs Lois up enough that she makes a bold announcement of her own.
Next election, I'm gonna run against you, and I'm gonna win.
So Lois has her sights set high to protect Quahog's landmarks and take down the corruption in the city. She starts her campaign in the traditional manner, even though Peter's t-shirts could use some work, and goes door to door to let everyone know her intentions. Her initial efforts aren't enough as West's lead keeps growing, so she brings the heat for the most important event, the debate. In a rare turn of events, I'm going to give Lois some credit. She's clearly the more intelligent candidate. Okay, now let me immediately undermine that credit. Her overly thought out and prepared answers don't impress the idiots of Quahog, so she resorts to the tried and tested tactics of every politician: vague answers and lies.
What do you plan to do about crime in our city?
A lot.
I already have enough trauma watching the current election, Lois. I don't need this. So Lois wins the election and makes good on her promise to clean up Lake Quahog, which ends up being the one and only act of good she does in office. Oh, but she doesn't clean up the lake using a well-constructed proposal of tax increases. No, this is Lois. She uses fear tactics. This woman gets more shameless each season, I swear. She brings up a fake terrorist threat made by Adolf Hitler, yes, the one who died almost 80 years ago, who's working with the Legion of Doom. I promise you, this is her actual threat. Lois manages to secure the funding to clear up the lake, plus a little extra for her own enjoyment. When Brian finds out that she's been using taxpayers' dollars to buy herself handbags, he calls out her unethical behavior. This entire conversation is listed under hypocritical in the dictionary. Regardless, his comments fall on deaf ears as she continues her shopping sprees, even trying to get mayoral discounts when she's literally using other people's money. Have I said she's shameless yet? She doesn't get her discount, but the owner of Quahog Oil does offer to buy the coat for her in exchange for dumping their toxins in the lake. What a full circle moment. And wouldn't you know it, Lois values a fur coat over her morals and fellow residents' health and safety. They attend the reopening of the sewer and watch as the lake is once again filled with toxic waste. But wait, we're doing another 180 because Lois remembers her morals and changes her mind after seeing this.
I was so consumed by power and money, I became the very thing I set out to destroy.
So, Mayor West takes the deal with the oil company, takes back his job, keeps the lake polluted, and Lois vows to never go into politics again. So, all of this was for nothing. God, I have a stress headache from all this back and forth. I need a break before the next one. Oh, and I'm being told I'm not allowed a break. Straight into number 8 with Farmer Guy, an episode that's nowhere near as wholesome as it sounds. The Griffins' regular TV schedule is interrupted by breaking news from the Channel 5 news team, who reveal the latest police statistics report to have shown a significant increase in crime throughout Quahog.
I haven't noticed anything like that.
You're in the house 14 hours a day. What would you notice?
Why do I need to try making jokes when Stewie's right there to do it for me? Each family member backs up the news report with a story of their own that proves how downhill Quahog is going, but Lois is still standing her ground and defending the place she's grown up in.
It's my home.
Yeah, come on, guys. She's got dyed roots in this community.
Okay, I'm gonna rein it in on the clips, but I had to include that one. After a montage that shows all the recent cases of crime, from seals with knives to newborn babies with guns, the Griffins return home from family dinner to find out that they've been burgled. By this point, Lois is coming around to the idea that Quahog isn't safe for them to live in anymore. Peter decides to take some initiative and buys a farmhouse and sells their house on Craigslist. They're reluctant at first, but eventually the family agrees to move out into the countryside. Peter immediately becomes one with the life of a farmer. From slowly crossing the road with cows to having a best friend named Larry who he spends all his time with, Peter becomes a fully fledged farmer. As fun as it is, they didn't account for the cost of running a farm. Hemorrhaging money and in danger of losing their home, Brian offers to go to college to learn about agriculture so they can successfully grow crops. Right as they see him off, an incoming tornado forces them to seek shelter in their storm cellar, which is where things start taking an interesting turn. Getting into the attic, they're greeted by burners, plastic tubing, and cases of cold medicine. And if you've seen Breaking Bad, you know exactly what this place is.
I think this is a meth lab.
Oh my God.
Like the responsible parent he is, Peter suggests that they turn the meth lab into a family business to solve their financial issues. And although she disagrees at first, Lois is pretty easily convinced by Peter's idea, but just enough to make their money back and nothing else. Way to take the moral high ground on this plan, Lois. Peter takes his quality control job too seriously and starts tweaking out in front of the family, but that's not stopping them from dealing drugs to the rest of Quahog via carrier pigeon. Is that how dealers actually distribute it? Eventually, Brian returns home from agriculture school. He'll be spending the rest of his life with student debts, but hey, at least he knows how to plant heirloom tomatoes. But that's not even his biggest concern. He's more worried about seeing Meg passed out on the floor and the entire house filled with drugs, guns, and money. Peter tries to defend his actions to Brian, claiming it was just a family bonding exercise, but it's clear it's become much more than that.
Look at all that cash, Brian.
He don't get none of that. He wasn't here for it.
I am well aware that both parents are to blame here, but watching Lois tweak out with her daughter passed out on the floor and her baby talking about his teeth falling out due to drugs just cements how far she's willing to cross the line sometimes. When the news reveals that the Griffins have caused a spike in meth usage in Quahog, Lois finally comes to her senses as a mom. She forces the family to pack up and move back to Spooner Street and gets them back on the straight and narrow. A failed chemical reaction that causes the house to blow up helps her convince them it's time to move. So they move back home and learn a valuable lesson.
But if your community has problems, you don't abandon it.
That's the lesson you took from this? Don't do drugs, don't have drugs around babies, don't start a drug ring from your basement and cause an entire town to tweak out on meth. No, none of those. That was the lesson you learned. Number 7 on this list goes to a bottle episode, one of the rare episodes where even Lois clocks how much of a psycho she is. We immediately open the episode with Lois, who walks into the kitchen with her iPad and the flashlight on, cause she's every mom ever, and excitedly tells the family that she's secured an Airbnb in Nantucket for the 4th of July. Not everyone is as excited as her because they have a life, but they join her anyway. They get to the house and spend the weekend touring the island, drinking in the garden, and laughing at kitchen signs. A real thriller of a weekend. Nevertheless, they happily get through their vacation without any arguments. Lois feels so recharged after their trip that she tries to book the house again, only to find that she's not able to.
The owner of the house gave us a 0-star review.
Not only that, the owner claimed that they stole something from the house, which earned Lois a ban from Airbnb. It's every middle-aged white woman's nightmare. This is one thing Lois will not stand for. She gathers the family and starts interrogating them to find out what was stolen and who the culprit was. She's no Olivia Benson in every way, and her interrogation comes up empty. So she does the next best thing and uses her iPad, which still has the flashlight on, to write back to the owner saying she thinks there's been a mistake. Dottie assures her it wasn't a mistake and that a bottle of shampoo was taken, which triggers something in Lois to remember a shower she took on the trip with a very specific bottle of shampoo. She tries to prove to her family that it was a mistake, but the audible thud the massive bottle made when it hits the table is enough to convince them and me that she took this on purpose. Even so, she tries to make amends with Dottie by apologizing and returning the bottle in hopes of getting her 0-star review changed, but the Airbnb host is having none of it. She calls Lois out for only apologizing since she got caught and refuses to change the review. In Lois's world, this is a declaration of war. Like a serial killer in the night, Lois stakes out Dottie's house to find the woman's weakness.
DoorDash, that's it?
Feeling a little called out by this, can't lie. So Lois gets a job working for DoorDash and starts making deliveries around the island to up her driver's score until she finally gets it, the golden ticket, a delivery to Dottie's house. It's an ominous scene as Lois shows up at Dottie's door, drenched head to toe with a sickeningly sweet smile on her face. After making the delivery, it's Lois's turn to rate her experience with Dottie.
Wouldn't it be a shame if one of only 2 DoorDash drivers on the island gave you a poor review?
I am scared of you, Lois Griffin. Please never watch this video. She doesn't stop at her thinly veiled threat. Oh, no. She keeps going. She threatens to get Dottie banned from the app, which would force her to go out and pick up her own food during the winter season, and blackmails her into changing the review on Airbnb. She tells Dottie exactly what the review should say before revealing that she purposefully stole the shampoo because it gave her a light bit of joy in her sad life.
Really, I should be thanking you for reminding me of who I am. A secret little psycho with very little to lose.
Secret's out, Lois. We get it. You're a psycho. In the number 6 spot is an episode that introduced us to a new character on the show, and I'm Joyce Kinney. Since Diane Simmons died earlier in the season, a new anchor made her way to the Quahog news team to take her place. Joyce Kinney, who solidified her position on the channel with an inspiring segment on a child with cerebral palsy. Lois is impressed by her, but moves on with her usual day, thinking nothing else of the woman. She drags the family to church as always, and is reminded by Stewie to go easy on the communion wine since last time she drank too much and spewed all over him. So she's either a lightweight or uses the church as a front for getting free wine. Any bets on which one? She leaves church and promises her pastor to help out at the bake sale, which leads her to the grocery store and into the path of Joyce Kinney. Lois gushes to the woman about what a big fan she is and the great job that the anchor is doing. Joyce is kind enough to offer Lois a tour around the station, which she quickly accepts, and the pair start what seems to be a blossoming friendship. The pair hit it off so well that they spend a night drinking together, bonding over dark secrets that they share.
When I was in college, I was in an adult film.
Lord forgive me for my browser history over the next week. Yeah, so anyway, they both finish their drinks and end the night on that note. The next day, Lois tunes into the news to watch her new friend's segment, but she's shocked when she's met with her own face as Joyce reveals the secret she told her that night. Lois is humiliated, betrayed, and confused as to why Joyce would reveal her secret. She storms into Joyce's changing room to find out why the woman turned on her and is reminded about her tainted past. Joyce reminds Lois that they went to high school together, and it's only then that it all clicks with Lois. Joyce is the girl that Lois bullied in school. When I say bullied, I'm severely underselling it. Lois lied to Joyce about making the cheer squad, blindfolded her, and told her they were going for a celebratory breakfast before taking down her pants and stuffing a hot dog in her mouth in front of the entire school. Jokes aside, what Lois did to Joyce is enough trauma to last someone a lifetime. Lois gives her a weak apology and tells her that she has no right to humiliate her in return. I wouldn't be so sure about that, Lois. So with the information out, Lois is forced to tell her family the truth about how she got to making Quest for Fur out of a need for extra cash to buy drugs.
I got another way you can make money.
So Raul gave me a job at his pet store.
Oh, I thought that cutaway was going somewhere else. Naturally, her checkered past gets her kicked out of her church, one of the only places Lois loves going to. Brian gives her advice on facing her problems head on, which she takes a bit too literally. The following week, she shows up to the congregation and previews her adult film. Oh yeah, now we're getting the good stuff.
I know I'm a man of God, but that is hot.
I mean, yay, Lois, for reclaiming your sexuality and all, but are we just going to brush over the absolute torment you caused to Joyce? I guess so, Family Guy. Breaking out is hard to do, as the episode earning the number 5 spot on the list. As is her usual MO, Lois goes grocery shopping for the week, but comes up short as she tries to buy a joint of ham. She goes to put it back in her bag. Nice. We're 3 minutes in and she's already committed a crime. Gonna be a good episode for Lois. When they get home, Brian questions how she got the ham since she was short on money, but some deflection and somewhat believable lies get her in the clear this time. Because it's all she does on this show apparently, Lois goes shopping again, but this time she steals clothes and jewelry rather than food. She's moving up in the world. Lois Griffin, kleptomaniac. Write that on her gravestone. Worth pointing out that we're only just at the 4-minute mark in the episode. Yeah, she goes off the rails in this one. With all the new additions in the house, Brian's suspicions have grown enough that he follows her to an auto parts store where he watches Lois steal a car muffler.
I'm just hooked on the rush of shoplifting. I haven't felt a thrill like this in a long time.
Here's an idea, Lois. Get a hobby. One that's legal would be a good start. Brian convinces her to hand back all the items she stole, but Joe catches her partway through the act. She tries to make a break for it, but he's too good at his job and arrests her for her crimes. The judge plans to go lenient on her since it's her first offense, but when he sees that his gavel is missing and she's the one who took it, he ups her sentence to 2 years in state prison. Oh no, 2 years without Lois on the show. Whatever will we do? Peter arguing with the judge earns Lois an extra year on top of that. As Lois meets her new cellmates, Peter learns that living without a wife, who does everything for you makes for a difficult living. Seeing Stewie dragging around the heaviest diaper you've ever seen is enough for Peter to realize they have to break Lois out of jail. One terrible exit plan later, and the Griffins surprisingly make a swift escape all the way to Asian Town. I'm not being racist, that is the actual name of the town, don't come for me. They settle into their new lives, each getting jobs and trying to stay hidden under the radar. But Peter's career as a sumo wrestler not only puts him on TV, but also reveals their location to Joe, who brings the entire force of the police with him to track them down. They are close to making yet another escape, but when Joe falls over the ledge in the sewers, Lois is given the choice of running or saving her friend. Credit to her, she does make the right choice despite the questionable execution.
Pretend I'm your child, Lois! Nutmeg, nutmeg!
So Lois's heroic acts get her cleared of her sentence, and she pays no consequences for shoplifting, forcing her family to become fugitives and live a new life, or running from the law again. Yet another lesson not learned for this woman. At spot number 4 is Customer of the Week, a Lois-centric episode to give Seth MacFarlane's voice a rest, not because she deserved it. Lois's morning routine might be the saddest thing I've ever seen. From talking to her best friend, Alexa, to trying to get Chris's foot out of the toilet, she paints a picture of her day-to-day life that honestly makes some of her actions more understandable. Not the actions in this episode, though. After doing the school run, she finally finds her peace in the local coffee shop. She greets all the baristas by their names and talks to them as though they were part of her own family before setting her sights on a new goal in life, the Customer of the Week award. Despite all the sucking up she does, she loses out on the award to Lester. To say Lois is heartbroken would be an understatement. She is broken by this, and after crying it out, she formulates a plan with Stewie.
I need need to show them that I deserve to be Customer of the Week.
You don't.
No matter what, you can always rely on Stewie to humble his mom. She steps up her efforts buying the barista's artwork and continuing to learn anything and everything about them, but when she comes up short again, she's enraged enough that she listens to Chris's advice to make a big move like saving one of the barista's lives. She uses her knowledge of Lisa's peanut allergy and fills her entire car with the food as she watches and waits for the woman to react so she can swoop in and save the day with an EpiPen. The level of crazy you have to be to do this is insane, like Lois. But her plan goes sideways when the allergic reaction takes a few minutes to kick in, causing Lisa to crash her car before getting hit by another. She goes to see Lisa in the hospital, but when the barista's mom reveals that the parking lot surveillance footage is being checked to find out who is responsible, Lois sprints to the coffee house to put a stop to things before she gets caught. Now this is where Lois goes from psycho to complete and utter psycho. Purposefully triggering someone's allergies wasn't enough for the woman who kidnaps Kyle after he learned she was responsible. After threatening him with keeping quiet or getting him hooked on heroin, went from 0 to 100 there, she offers to look after Kyle's cat. She meets his roommates while checking in on the animal, but once they get suspicious of her, she knocks them out and kidnaps them too. Okay, let's add 3 counts of kidnapping on top of attempted murder. Lois knows there's no getting out of things at this point, so she stands and does the dishes as the cops pull up to the Griffin home.
I'm a good person, Joe.
Joe lets her finish the dishes as well as other house chores to help out Peter before taking her in to serve a 6-month sentence. It wasn't until I made this list that I realized just how many times Lois has been to jail. So what does she do now that she's free? She finds a new coffee house and starts the cycle all over again by sucking up to the barista and giving unreasonably large tips. Because when will Lois ever learn her lesson? Prick up your ears sends us into the top 3, and let me warn you, Lois's actions start to get disturbing, more so than usual. Lois experiences every parent's nightmare as she walks in on Chris and his friends watching adult videos. Stewie's there too, just to make matters worse. Chris tries to defend his actions, saying it's the only way he'll learn now that the school has cut funding and no longer has a sex ed teacher. Hearing this, Lois volunteers to teach the class herself. Oh, so this is where Chris's trauma started. She starts to teach them about the importance of protection before Peter walks in, offering up his own expertise on the subject. Both are as unsuccessful as each other and end up causing protests from parents about teaching them safe sex rather than scaring them off of intercourse. The end result? Lois has her class canceled and a reverend is brought in to give a seminar on abstinence.
Not only do condoms fail 100% of the time, they're also majorly unsafe.
Apparently, the students are dumb enough to buy into this nonsense, as most of them take up the practice of abstinence. Even Meg is convinced by their performance enough that she brings home a book filled with anti-sex propaganda and shows it to Peter, the only other character dumb enough to also believe what he reads. Since the propaganda explained that intercourse would cause a certain body part to fall off, Peter vows to be abstinent. His choice isn't brought up until Lois steps inside their bedroom for role-playing night dressed as, well, I'm gonna let you see for yourself.
Here comes Grimace. You got some burgers I can steal, huh?
Ah, so this is where my trauma started. Lois continues undressing Peter only to find that he's wearing a chastity belt and not for kinky purposes. She drops her disguise, thank God, and storms into her daughter's room to complain about Meg bringing home the propaganda that's ruined her night. But what she walks in on is Meg and her boyfriend getting more action than she'll see that night. How can I put this lightly? Meg wasn't having regular intercourse and she's abstinent. She was somehow involving her ear in the, action. I'm gonna let you connect the dots on that one. So much trauma in one episode. She doesn't manage to convince Meg that safe sex practices are better than whatever the hell she's doing, so she goes to try and turn the next celibate person in the house, Peter. And this is where, once again, Lois loses any redeeming qualities she ever had in my eyes. She tries to tempt Peter into you-know-what, but when he refuses, she tells him they will be doing it.
No.
I wasn't asking your permission.
Yeah, so she forces herself onto Peter, essentially assaulting him, as well as forcing him to go against his morals and beliefs. But this is Family Guy, so of course it's only made into a joke when Peter is reminded of how good regular intercourse is. It felt like they could have at least spared a minute to talk about what Lois just did, but no. Since she manages to convert Peter away from abstinence, she tries to do the same with Meg. Let's just hope she goes about it a different way, or Meg is in for some tough therapy sessions. So Peter and Lois break into the school and interrupt the Reverend's speech, exposing him for his lies. She offers up the same advice as she did at the start of the episode about protection and consent. Oh, the sweet irony of it all. But this time, the students take her advice to heart.
I'm proud of you, sweetheart.
Me too, Lois. You stood up for what you believe in.
Am I in the Twilight Zone? How? Is nobody bringing up the fact that Lois assaulted her husband because she wasn't getting any? Which is almost as bad as the Grimace outfit. At number 2 is Lois Comes Out of Her Shell, an episode where Lois experiences the dreaded midlife crisis. It's worth noting who started this crisis. As is usually the case, it was Peter. The husband of the year uses Lois's birthday party to constantly remind her of her aging, as well as deliver a speech also about her aging. 2 for 2, Peter. The speech is so bad that it leaves her running off in tears. The next day, the family is greeted by an all-new Lois who looks like she's ready to be on MTV Spring Break.
OMG, stop staring at me, please. Hey, thanks.
You know, that whole look was kinda working for me until she tried talking. She gets highlights, a new set of wheels, a brand new personality, and worst of all, a lower back tattoo. As they should be, everyone is concerned about Lois's current mental state and band together to keep an eye on her. Peter's concern goes right out the window when he sees that Lois has reverted to her younger, wilder years. I'm gonna save you the trauma of listening to the noises they make by not playing the clip, but seeing Meg, Chris, and Brian's faces should be enough of a hint as to how bad it is. It may be a midlife crisis on his part too, but Peter makes the most of her lifestyle changes and joins in on the fun. Fun for her equals doing drugs, partying, reckless driving, murder, and then hiding the evidence. So a classic midlife crisis, nothing out of the ordinary here. Peter only lasts so long, giggity, before realizing that he can't keep up with her youthful lifestyle anymore and tells Lois he's done.
You do what you want to do, but I'm going to that party. My life isn't over.
When Peter gets home, Brian blames Peter for Lois's recent behavior, explaining that his constant comments about her age made her feel like she wasn't good enough. He's interrupted mid-blame game by a live report on the Justin Bieber concert going on in Quahog, where none other than Lois is in attendance. Seeing this, Peter promises the kids that he's going to get their old mom back. This time he didn't actually mean old as an insult. Meanwhile, Lois is living it up at the concert, fangirling over the then 18-year-old. She manages to get into the singer's dressing room after the show, not by flashing her goods to a gay security guard, but by buying him frozen yogurt.
Hey there, cutie.
Oh, so this is what we're doing, Lois. Yeah, so Lois takes her midlife crisis and multiplies it by 100 as she tries to flirt with the pop star through a series of failed references. He doesn't understand them because he's literally too young to, but Lois presses on and once again forces herself on someone.
Hey, just get your pants off, hun.
Thankfully, Peter arrives in time to put a stop to things before I can write a letter of complaint to Seth MacFarlane. He apologizes for how he made Lois feel and reminds her that he loves the Lois that she is now and not the younger Lois she's pretending to be. So she and Peter leave the dressing room with no apologies to Bieber for having nearly just sexually assaulted him. Honestly, seems about right at this point. I mean, at the very least, she apologizes for her actions this time, but that still doesn't feel like enough, especially when Peter is there to comfort and reassure her that there's nothing wrong with being 35.
Peter, I'm 43.
Get out of this house.
And finally, the number 1 spot, Go Stewie Go, which features the most psychotic and insane thing Lois has done that was safe enough to show on YouTube. Meg has a boyfriend. I'm saying it quickly so you can get the shock out of your system. But Meg has a boyfriend and asks her parents if he can come around for dinner. They're as shocked and as skeptical as we all were, but let her bring him around. The surprises just keep coming for the family as Meg's boyfriend Justin shows up looking normal? Everyone in Quahog gathers to check Justin out, even Dr. Hartman, who reveals that there's nothing wrong with the guy. This is starting to feel a little too insulting to Meg, but I'm still gonna laugh at it. The parents get to know Justin more and find out that he's nothing if not polite, and he even compliments Lois's appearance by telling her she could be a movie star. If you don't see where this episode is going by now on the list, then I have seriously failed my job.
Oh my god, that's kinda hot.
One half of that mess of arms and legs is your daughter, Lois. Gross. One compliment is all it takes for Lois to start imagining a world where her and Justin are together. And as always, she takes things too far by not letting it just stay in her imagination. She gives him a card that has her menstrual cycle on it. Power through, the video's almost over. Anyway, she makes it clear that she wants him alone. The opportunity to act on her desires happens soon after when Meg leaves to pick up Carter from the airport, and as is no surprise, Lois does act on them. Justin has never had a MILF, his words not mine, come on to him, so he's living his best life, and Lois is sad and desperate. We all know this by now. She makes the first move, but pushing herself onto another teenage boy isn't the worst part. Not by a long shot.
Rape?
I am trying so hard to not be subjective, but dear God, Lois, you are making it impossible. So Lois goes to talk to Meg, who understandably is beyond mad at this point. So much so that honestly, I kinda feel bad about the Meg jokes earlier. What the hell, she's not gonna hear me. Anyways, Meg calls her mom out for making out with her boyfriend, and Lois apologizes by claiming she never meant to steal Justin from her daughter. Steal. I do not like that phrasing, and neither does Meg.
You couldn't steal him from me.
Well, I do know a few things, Megan. Clearly, if I wanted him, I could have him.
Oh, she is just the most shameless character on this show. So not only does she come onto a teenager, but she also steals her daughter's boyfriend, makes a serious claim about being assaulted to play things off, and gives said daughter a crappy apology before then insulting her more. Oh, and I haven't even gotten to the best part yet. She then goes on to blame Peter for pushing her to the point that she had to seek attention from Justin.
You've been making me feel old and fat and unattractive and worthless. How do you expect me to respond?
Lois Griffin, ladies and gentlemen, Quahog's resident narcissist and fully fledged psychopath.